bringing you news with a voice of reason. You're listening to the Hawk Report. The United States has a long and proud history of offering protection to aliens who are fleeing persecution and torture who qualify under the standards articulated in the immigration laws, including through our asylum system and the refugee admissions program. But our system is being overwhelmed by migration through our southern border. Crossing the border to avoid detection and then, if apprehended, claiming a fear of persecution is in too many instances an avenue to near automatic release into the interior of the United States. Once released, such aliens are very difficult to remove. An additional influx of large groups of aliens arriving at once through the southern border would add tremendous strain to an already taxed system, especially if they avoid orderly processing by unlawfully crossing the southern border. The entry of large numbers of aliens into the United States unlawfully between ports of entry on the southern border is contrary to the national interests, and our law has long recognized that aliens who seek to lawfully enter the United States must do so at ports of entry. Unlawful entry puts lives of both law enforcement and aliens at risk. By contrast, entry at ports of entry at the southern border allows for orderly processing, which enables the sufficient deployment of law enforcement resources across our vast southern border. Failing to take immediate action to stem the mass immigration to the United States is currently experiencing and anticipating would only encourage additional mass unlawful migration and further overwhelming of the system. Other presidents have taken strong action to prevent mass migration. In Proclamation 4865 of September 29, 1981, High Seas Interdiction of Illegal Aliens, in response to an influx of Haitian nationals traveling to the United States by sea, President Reagan suspended the entry of undocumented aliens from the high seas and ordered the Coast Guard to intercept such aliens before they reached the United States shores and to return them to the point of origin. An Executive Order 12807 of May 24th, 92, interdiction of illegal aliens, in response to a dramatic increase in the unlawful mass migration of Haitian nationals to the United States, President Bush ordered additional measures to interdict such Haitian nationals and return them to their home country. The Supreme Court upheld the legality of these measures in State v. Haitian Centers Council, Incorporated 509 U.S. 155 in 1993. I am similarly acting to suspend for a limited period the entry of certain aliens in order to address the problem of large numbers of aliens traveling through Mexico to enter our country unlawfully or without proper documentation. I am tailoring the suspension to channel these aliens to ports of entry so that if they enter the United States, they do so in an orderly and controlled manner instead of unlawfully. Under this suspension, aliens entering through the southern border, even those without proper documentation, may, consistent with this proclamation, avail themselves of our asylum system, provided that they properly present themselves for inspection at a port of entry. In anticipation of a large group of aliens arriving in the coming weeks, I am directing the Secretary of Homeland Security to commit additional resources to support our ports of entry at the southern border to assist in processing those aliens and all others arriving at our points of entry as efficiently as possible. Donald J. Trump, and I'll put the link in the production notes if you'd like to finish. From the Last Days edition, Book 1 of the Christian Mythbuster series. Ezekiel 38:6 and 15 and 39:2 speak of an enemy from the north coming against the mountains of Israel. Directionally speaking, some might be inclined to say the Assyrians would be this invader, described as north in Zephaniah 2:13. Others say Russia. Only these do not make sense because they would not ascend up from the northern border. As we will see, this is the way this invasion is described. The Assyria territory did exemplify the region of ancient enemies of Old Covenant Israel. However, the way it is described in Ezekiel 38:15 and 39:2 is as ascending from the sides or the recesses of the north, could mean the uppermost regions of northern Mexico. After examining the progression of events by no fluke, is the most popular passageway illegals have been sneaking into our homeland. Here's the description in which the invasion ensues. The map here seems to depict it well. It includes most passageways. Ezekiel 38:9, and you shall ascend, you shall come like a storm, you shall be like a cloud to cover the land, you and all your hordes and many people with you. Ezekiel 38:11, and you shall say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages.
Según como se reciban aquí, se recibió un poquito mejor. Por eso es que ya se calmaron. Ajá, se calmaron. Y si los van a seguir tratando mejor de aquí en adelante, pues van a ir mejor, sin hacer destrozos. Porque aquí se esperaba que iba a ser destrozo y medio, todos se les avisó que cerraran negocios.
The question arises as the migrant caravan makes its way through Mexico. Why is it that so many people in so many of the towns and villages we've encountered would give water and food and clothing and, in some cases, even shelter to the migrants? Well, we just had a fascinating discussion with a gentleman by the name of Martin Ramirez, who lives here in Sayula. And what he told us is that it's principally being motivated by fear. He told us that many in the community are afraid that if you have an onslaught of mostly young, angry, hungry men and don't give them food and water, then all that's going to rise out of this is trouble. And certainly they don't want trouble. And if it's only going to be a temporary pit stop here in Sayula, then the idea is help them out, feed them, clothe them, give them some water, and let them be on their way. And it just goes to show you, folks, like so much that we've encountered in this part of the world, nothing is as it truly seems. First